On to the next game, another situational spot for me. Auburn projected to be about a 6-point road favorite at Ole Miss. Tip time on ESPN, I believe, 2 p.m. Eastern on Saturday here, continuing along with the Saturday college basketball slate. Auburn riding a 12-game winning streak coming into this game. Ole Miss snapping a 3-game skid, but failing to cover the number against Texas. A lot of sharp bettors I know were on the Rebels on Wednesday night, but they did win outright. If you had Chris Beard's team in a money line parlay, and Auburn survived against Tennessee last weekend and demolished LSU with Janai Broome back in the starting lineup earlier in the week. So not only are you going to get a sold-out pavilion here, Justin, for Ole Miss, but speaking of situational spots, Bruce Pearl mentioned this in his press conference, and I think it's important to note. Auburn had a late tip against LSU on Wednesday night on the road. Right. Then they come home and then back on the road on Saturday. That rarely happens in SEC play. So situationally, not just a get-up game for Ole Miss, trying to win back-to-back games. They've also lost 6 straight to Auburn. Granted, 2 of those have only happened with Chris Beard, but all 6 happened with Brakefield and Matthew Morrell on this team, so they're well aware of that losing streak. But also Auburn potentially maybe some tired legs throughout this one just based on the situational spot. So I have more to dive into in this handicap, but what does shot quality have to say about this matchup?
Tough one. You got to hope that crowd really kind of helps out for Ole Miss, because Auburn is going to do exactly what you need to do when you play Ole Miss, and that's take care of the basketball. Turnover percent 13. I mean, that's 6th best in the nation. And again, yeah, it might be a tough spot, but the 87-74 win over LSU expected to be a 107-74 win. So let that sink in. No, it's I think I lean Auburn. Honestly, I'm not going to listen to the media. I'm not going to listen to Bruce Pearl lament about travel. He has one of the best teams that we've seen in the last 10 years in college basketball, with one of the best players that we have seen in the last 10 years in college basketball. Low turnover rate, great attacking the basket, creates incredible spacing, really good rebounding, and then don't allow you to take threes. So that combination means that, they're forcing you into looks that Broome can alter and affect more. And it leads to them having a top 35 expected defense, the number 2 expected offense, and it makes for a very formidable matchup, to the point that, even, you talked a little bit about some of the limitations of shot quality, and we're very open about this. Height, the tallest players give us the most trouble. So, hi, Janai Broome. So you see a big 23% luck rating next to Auburn, and that's going to be very natural when you only have 1 loss. But the fact of the matter is that you probably need to give them a little bit more of an edge case error scenario. This is not a middle of the pack team that is going to model out and fit to the data like everybody else. This is one of those teams that is equally hard to have fit, just as much as MVSU is an NJITR. Auburn at the very top, might be better than anyone can really expect. So it's an interesting conundrum, and I do technically think that even with that, not accounting for that, it still leans Auburn. If you account for that, even more lean towards Auburn.
Okay. No, fair points there. My issue with Auburn in this matchup, and why I respect Beard's defense here, Ole Miss's no-middle defense, I think, sets up really well against what Auburn wants to do in terms of getting the ball into the lane and post-up touches for Broome, Cardwell, maybe even Baker Mazar on a back down, because they only rank in the 13th percentile on post-up touches allowed, which means they don't allow many of them because they don't allow the ball.
16th most in the conference. Yeah, sorry, wrong case. Sorry, I went to Wake Forest, who also, interestingly, doesn't allow a lot. But let's stay in the right conference. My apologies, everybody. For Mississippi, even crazier. So 13th most, only 2% of possessions against them in conference play have been in the post. That's crazy.
Yeah, great backup there for synergy and shot quality. And they rank in the 65th percentile on a points per possession basis on defending post-up touches. Again, you're trapping the middle. You're not allowing Janai Broome to get single coverage on a back down. You're making him kick it out. Granted, as you hit on, Auburn can space you out at a high level, but Ole Miss's defense is affected because of their ball pressure. And I know you mentioned Auburn doesn't turn the ball over, but I will say their primary ball handlers, Pettiford and Denver Jones, both above 16% turnover rate. It's not elite for a true ball handler. So overall as a team, Auburn doesn't turn the ball over, but both of those guys can be a little bit loose with the ball at times, especially Pettiford as a true freshman. And
if it's loud and it's a big environment, I mean, that's the X factor, right?
Yep.
To me, if those turnovers come, from the,
live
the
ball
inbound passes, live bound turnovers, that's where Mississippi could shock some people, honestly, win the game. And again, every possession is going to count. It's going to be right there. This is a sharp line. My big issue is Auburn's very good, and honestly, the defense for Mississippi expected to regress. But they also have some good size in there, and the SEC is ferocious. So largely going to expect no bet from me. But I don't know which way are you going, Eli? Have we said which side you're on?
Yeah, so I'll very well be on Ole Miss.
Okay.
Very, very likely going to be on Ole Miss if I get 2 possessions here with KenPom projecting this one at 6. To your point, Ole Miss's 3-point defense, 26.8% in league play, but after the Alabama win, it was at 20%. So we have seen some regression in league play. One last thing for me on the Rebels, why I like them here in this spot. Auburn plays drop coverage with Broome and or Cardwell at the 5. Ole Miss plays 5 out with Malik Dia and Brakefield. Maybe you get some shooting regression. They're 6th in the league in 3-point efficiency in SEC play at 34.2%. But like I hit on,
40% night and a couple extra turnovers, it's a good game, and maybe they win. Like that's both those things. They win the turnover battle by like 5-6, and then they shoot 42% from 3, and they embrace it a little bit because it's not like they shoot a fair amount of threes, right? More off the dribble, and they're a little bit better off the dribble, not by much. It's pretty equal, but they go up to if they look a little bit like Alabama, and they get to like a 45% 3-point attempt rate, and they hit 40% of them. I do think that is a recipe that can beat Auburn. It can beat a lot of teams, so you'd think, but it's really hard to beat Auburn. So yeah.
12-game winning streak says it all. Beard, a very analytically savvy coach, and Brakefield and D are going to have big nights at both ends, not only with their post-up defense on traps, but also from behind the arc. I will say it every podcast from this one going forward, or I guess the last couple, I am a major, major Malik Dia stan. So onward and upward, Justin.